Hi, welcome to week 14 on deck. It's been 14 weeks already. This week, life on this planet. Going to discuss struggles. We all have struggles. Loss of job, illness in the family. Maybe there's disputes in the families between sons and daughters, mom and dads, having issues with your aunts and uncles. Certainly loss of friends and family members during this time. In Bible times there was struggles, all the way right up until today. Loss of food in the Old Testament and New Testament too. There was drought where they didn't have enough water. You always had the Romans, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians causing problems. You had illness with little medicine or cures back then. You had widows who were struggling to get by because they'd lost their husbands. People threatening to take away their homes and their children. This week we're going to be looking at Paul again. Paul, who was involved in Acts and Romans and Ephesians and Philippians. Paul has this encounter with God, and he's ready to reach as many as he can with the good news. Full speed ahead. Reminds you of somebody gets out of college and they say they're ready to conquer the world. He ends up in jail though. He ends up being humiliated. He finds he has a lack of support. He gathers a group of people together to help him, and then he ends up feeling he needs to send those people off on their own because he has so much he feels he has to do, so many cities to cover. He had great resistance to his plan. He found black magic, false prophets. Like I mentioned before, he went to Greece. He found 30,000 statues, or we can call them idols. He was trying to speak to Gentiles, Jews. He found them fighting amongst each other while he's trying to give them the good news. And like I said, he ends up in jail. He found a lot of people who believed in traditions and rituals, where they thought if they gave a gift to the priest or a gift to the church or the temple that they would be blessed for just giving that, and they could just go on their way. No more obligations. It was a mixed up world, just like we have today, where he thought they would be willing to and open to hearing the message. He found conflict. In Acts chapter 16:16, there's an instance where a girl was prophesizing. So people would pay the girl to tell them their fortune. When she kind of was following Paul and the other followers, he turned and released that spirit from her, which was a good thing for the girl because somebody was using her to earn money. But those people got mad. They ended up being dragged and beaten and thrown into jail for doing that. Let's remember that God is the God of the Old Testament. God is the God of the New Testament. He is with us today. He's the King, the Creator, Almighty. He's eternal. And Paul was faced with all kinds of struggles as we are today. He just wanted to go from town to town and tell the good news. And today we see speakers doing that. They almost look like they have a concert schedule when you look them up online. Speaker will probably be in New Orleans, May 4th and 5th, over to Miami, 14th and 15th. Then he travels up the coast to Somerville or Charlotte or Dover, Delaware, up to Chicago, back over to the state of Maine. These speakers find they have nice travels, they have nice places to stay in, perfect buildings to talk in, and give their message, plenty to eat. Not the case with Paul. Let's look at one occasion, Philippians 1:13. And there it says, "As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I am in chains for Christ." And what he's saying here is the families, the servants, the workers, the guards, the people in town, that the news spread there that there were men in jail for just talking about Jesus. Paul's kind of point here is, if this did not happen, these people would not have been reached or would not have heard the good news. The people in the jail cells, he's mentioned the guards, people in town, the palace servants, the family members. It was kind of like it was on the evening news instead of just Paul trying to go from person to person. The news spread faster because of his struggles. And one of the things I want to tell you today is, do not allow bad struggles to paralyze us. Let us look for opportunities to bring up God. I'm sure we've all traveled a lot, and sometimes we've traveled and the car breaks down, and this is a struggle. It's not an event that we've planned for. It's a problem. It's a bad time when that happens. But you tell the mechanic that God was looking after you, that if you would broke down somewhere else in another area where there wasn't anybody to help, it would have taken longer, and your trip would have been delayed even more. And that's an opportunity to tell somebody about God. I'm not saying that every negative can be a positive. I guess what I'm trying to say is every negative doesn't have to stay a negative. And the devil wants to use all these little things and sometimes big things to bring us down. The devil wants even to make us somewhat complacent with life. The struggles are so distracting that we get stuck in a routine. We just dwell on one problem after another. It's like having kids. All you remember sometimes is the bad things, the wrong things they do. They've knocked over the milk, they ruined the rug, they broke the window. They won't take a nap. So when they draw you a picture, and it's a very nice picture, and they say, "I love you, Mommy," or "Daddy," and they give you the picture, sometimes your mind just goes back to, they just lost my ring, they just broke my favorite coffee mug. We stay focused on the negative. Did you ever hear someone go, "Wow, it's been 5 years since we went to West Virginia"? Maybe somebody or yourself have opened up the closet and they say, "Well, I remember that shirt. I wonder why I haven't worn that in years." Or you call somebody and they say, "Oh, thanks for calling. I've been wondering what happened to you. It's been 6 months." These are all things that show us that somehow we've been distracted. And the devil wants us to be distracted. He loves us. Let me try and explain some ways between God and the devil, I guess. God tells us that He's in charge. He wants to bring us hope and joy, peace. He wants us to have things work out for us. Meanwhile, the devil says the world is in charge. It's a messed up world, and so your life is messed up. Another example is God has provided for you in the past. God is looking after you today. He's there when you need Him. But the devil kind of says, well, focus on now. It's terrible out there, and it's terrible with your life. He tries to keep your perspective or your view very small. God is everywhere. He's the God of creation. He's the God of the future, and He's the God of today. But the devil likes us to just focus maybe on the holidays. Just remember God on Easter, especially at Christmas. That's God's holidays. Tries to keep us distracted in that way, so we're not remembering that God is with us every day. God's trying to tell you have access to Him every day through prayer and through His Word. The devil says, well, God created the world, and then it went into chaos, and it even says somewhere in that creation story that at one point He was done. And that's not true. God can help you no matter what is going on, and when you have little, God can still do great things. The devil's trying to tell you you're not good enough to get help from God. Your life is too messed up. You need too much help. Try drinking, try drugs. That's better. You get help right away. It's a quick fix, but it doesn't make your problems go away. I'm going to give you 3 examples of people who had little and ended up with a miracle. 2 Kings chapter 4, there was a widow. She was broke. Her husband had passed away, and they were coming to take her kids away. A prophet comes along and says, well, what do you have? And she says, I have a little bit of oil in a jug. He tells her to collect all the jars you can and fill them all up. Go to your neighbors, go to your friends. and that's what she does. He says to pour your little bit of oil into those jugs until every jug is full. A miracle happens. She's able to sell those jugs, pay off her debts, save her house and her children. In Judges chapter 7, Gideon finds himself with 32,000 soldiers ready to go to battle, but God knows that if he goes to battle with that many, that Joshua would get the glory and not himself. And so God ends up whittling down that army to 300 men. Yet even with 300, he defeats an army of thousands. There's a story of fish and loaves, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It runs through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The 5 fish and 2 loaves, and they're multiplied, and they fed everyone. 5,000 people were fed that day. You know, I know your plans are disrupted from day to day. It happens with me. I want to get up. I want to eat my breakfast. I want to go to work. I want to come home to a nice dinner. I want to read a book, watch TV, or spend time with the family, and yet something seems to happen. I was going to give you an example today of an egg being in your life, and then when it becomes cracked, that's when it gets disrupted. And then I was going to put it in a bowl and scramble it all up and say then our lives can even become scrambled. But my wife was catching me taking the whisk and the egg, so I thought it'd be a better idea not to do that. So how do we get through? Well, God is with us. We hear friends and family say God has forgotten me, but God is still with us. I was thinking of, you know, when you buy a car, the purchase is over. You put your money into the car, it's your car. But you still need money for upkeep, repairs, preventive maintenance. You're invested in this, it's your car, but a lot of times we stop and say, why am I still putting money into that? I bought it, it was brand new. Well, God died on the cross, and his work was done. Path to salvation was made for us. He suffered and died that day, but God was not done with us. He promised to be with his followers every day, still invested in his children, still there to see us through our good days and carry us through the bad. God is not finished with us yet. He did not say that was the plan and now it's done. Now it is time for our daily walk, our daily relationship, letting him help us. Healing us from illnesses, healing relationships, helping us get the gifts of the Spirit or the fruits in our lives so that we could find peace, that we could feel love, show compassion, find joy, increase our faith, find kindness, goodness in our lives, find self-control. When things go bad, I remember when I was losing my dad, the long hours, the feeling of hopelessness, the fact that they had sent me away at the time of his passing. I was literally turning into Michael Douglas in that movie Falling Down, where he's just outraged at everybody, every wrong thing he does. I was out in the middle of Pacific Avenue in the town I grew up, cursing someone for almost running me down, which might have been partially my fault because I was distracted with my thinking. But the pressure and the sadness was growing, and it was getting out of control, so I turned to God. I prayed for self-control, understanding, and peace, and that God would work things out. I would not be here today without God. I would not be where I am today without my wife. I had to lean on her as well, and I appreciate that God sent her into my life. I know others who all seem lost, and God sent that right person into your life. A time when life seems scrambled. I know some of you are listening today, and you probably don't know that I was praying for you, but I've seen many of you have somebody enter their lives that God sent them. God interceded when you needed him most, and sent you someone that would provide you with support. Like I said last week, praise him in the good times, turn to him in prayer when you need him most. Don't wait. Little things can get out of control without God. To have a solid relationship with God is an everyday thing. I realize you can order a book and wait for weeks to get it, and then read the book hoping that you'll find answers in it. That you can go to your happy place and travel miles and miles to another state thinking that that would help you with your problems. You can call a friend and wait for a call back. But go to prayer today and ask for answers today for your problems and your struggles. Those things that are scrambling your life. Remember, God is the God of the universe, but God is our everyday friend. I used to have a problem with a friend of mine. I asked him one day, do you attend church? And he said, no, I don't attend church, I don't need church. And I let that go. I'm not one to question somebody else's walk with God, or do I want to debate with somebody for 40 years on the benefit of having a church family. But I came from a church that one of their top activities was arguing over things, so I can see some of his points that he made. My friend does say, I know who my God is. My God is in here, and he is with me wherever I go. Let's remember that this week. Are we accessing God every day? And God is with you wherever you go. God bless.